Extension methods in C Sharp. Today we are going to focus on one of the very important concepts of C Sharp that will help us to understand the underlying principle of lambda expressions, lambda function, anonymous functions, everything that will come under your hood if you really understand what are really extension methods in .NET. So this class will act as a prerequisite for those who want to learn LINQ or lambda expressions. Let us begin this class. We will fire Visual Studio.NET. Let us go quickly create a new project. You can create anything. For this matter, I am just creating a new Windows Form application. It's not really important that which type of application you use, but for this matter, I am creating a new Windows Form application to show this. So within a proper directory, let me name it as extension method. Fine. Click OK. Extension method themselves are not a very big topic in .NET, but you must understand what they are, how they work, and what charm they really bring in your programming. So let us have a small button on it just to test the extension methods, nothing else, no fascination. So let me name it appropriately. Okay, just before I do any naming or what I really wish to do, let me first bring you up with a situation. You think what to do in that situation. Let us assume that in your project several times you have to use the string class. You will be using string class in your project several times, right? Now you know that already in string class you have a lot of methods like split, join, substring, etc. Now all of a sudden the project that you are currently assigned to that requires a lot of name shortening up. Like if your name is maybe like say my name is Shudipto Kumar Mukherjee. So what this application will really want is to shorten this up and write s.k.m several times. Maybe several times you would like to do this stuff. If someone's name is Charles Dick, it is shorted as CD. That's it. Got my point? So, and that too will really bring up two important parameters. One, onto which you want the separation, like okay, it can be a name but it can be something other. Thus you want the split character and you would also like to mention the join character. That is, you are assuming that a split character will be space and a join character will be dot, right? But it could have been just simply anything else, like maybe that just not only for names, you'd like to do this for other stuff also, maybe for some countries. So maybe India hash USA as China as Pakistan. So if this is the case, in that case I'd like to mention that okay, this is my string. First of all, this will be my string and I'd like to split it on hash and I'd like to join it on dot. Many of you might be thinking, oh, this is already there in .NET. You use split and join characters. No, I am not talking about that stuff. What I want is to be able to use a function like this. Maybe that I would like to do stuff like this. Now please pay attention what I would really like to do. Maybe that you're having a variable string str, and within that str you have got some information from some text box, maybe from some text box.text. Now text box.text, nothing but it has this information. So let us cut it and let us paste over here. Maybe that the text box is actually having this information. So right away I initialize this str with this particular data pieces. Now what you want is that you want this information, another such string x, which you would like to do like this: x equals str dot create initial. Now, initial, as you know, skm for short is known as initial, like having the initials, only having the first letters are known as creating initials. So create initial, and you will pass in two characters, one onto which it will be broken up hash, and what is the join character dot. I just want to do this stuff. Think about it, dear students, because you might need this functionality several times in your project. Please point it out. You might need it several times in your project, not just one time. If it were just one time, I could have created the create initial function separately and could have passed str itself as a parameter. But as because you want it several times in a project, you could beg Microsoft that please create a function, create initial for us, right into the string class. Because if you don't have create initial function within the string class, you cannot use this as a dot on this str object. Please understand. That is, you want to have a method which is not being already defined by Microsoft or by any class designer into his original class. That is, might have omitted that function because it was not expected that someone will use this off and on. But your project requires you to have this particular function several times. So what you thought is that fine, if we could also have this create initial function right inside the string class, so that we could have called it as a method on a string object like str. How can we do this? This is what is known as extending a class. Extending means giving or adding or patching up with extra methods from outside. Well, many of you might think that extending a class is not a new concept. It is already there. We use inheritance for doing that, right? We extend, and extend is a keyword in Java jargon, right? Extending a class means actually inheriting a class. So that what you can do is, like many of you might think that okay, it's nothing new for us. Let us create a new string class, maybe class myString, which will be extending the original string class which is within system dot string, and then you can write some functionality so that you can create your own function create initial. Got my point? And thereafter you use myString instead of string everywhere in your project. It will be used accordingly. But unfortunately, Microsoft has made this string class a sealed class. So you cannot inherit a sealed class. If a class is sealed, you cannot create a derived class of it. You see, myString is myString. We are trying to derive myString right from system.string, but it is not possible to derive anything from the string class because the string class is a sealed class. Sealed class is non-inheritable class. So a class which cannot be inherited is known as non-inheritable, right? So string is a sealed class for sure. You can check it out if you ever try to do this, right? Like if you don't believe me, okay, you don't believe me. who is telling you to believe me. Like just come up public, just write anything. Now class ABC whatever, and then extends this string. I'm sorry, string string. Just I'm doing nothing but just to write this, and just let me compile this. Build solution, and you say that ABC cannot derive from a sealed type string. This is already sealed, dear student. So that means you cannot inherit system.string class. Now please don't argue this is small string or capital string. Your maturity in .NET definitely make sure that you understand that small string and capital string are all the same thing. They are nothing but within a class within system namespace. So anyway, you cannot do this stuff. So what is a solution? Neither you are able to extend upon this string class. Yes, you are not able to extend from the string class. So what is the solution of it? Like you really want to have that stuff everywhere in your project. So let me copy this one. I want this stuff to be everywhere in your project. You might need this. So let me come up here, let me double click, let me say that create initial, and I like to have a text box up there. So whatever you type in, for that initial will be created. So on this button one dot click, I like to do certain stuff like this. So maybe that initially you can cut and paste over here just for the sake of to save some typing. You can save it over here, right? So you simply don't have to type it over and over again. I'm sorry, the inverted columns was also included. So now that create initial, what it will do is that it will be accepting data from this text box dot text, and then it will be doing this stuff. I would like to have create initial function within the string class. This is the final verdict. I would like to have. Now will you go to Microsoft for this stuff? The answer is no. You can definitely patch up, like externally patch up, append, right, new methods as you wish to an existing class without even the notice of that class, even if the class is sealed. Yes, even if the class is sealed. Let me quickly show you how to do this first, and then let me explain the concept of sealed class and very concept of functions themselves. How are exactly functions implemented? So a few things are coming up. So hold your breath and just keep cool. So the way to do this is very simple. You have to create a class definitely, and that you can have this class named anything. Make sure that it's a static class. Now why is it like this? I will be telling you, but first let me write the code and let me complete the coding portion of it. So public static class, you can have the class simply named anything. So I'm just writing anything you wish to name this class, anything you wish, fine. So this class can be having any name, and static classes can have only static methods, as you know. So let me have a public static method, and it will be giving you a return string, and this will be having this name create initial, having two parameters, like one char split split char, another parameter is a join char, right? And that I need to define this one. Definitely in the end I need to return something, so I'm creating the return structure string, return str, return string. Initially I will initialize it to empty space, and lastly I'm having a habit to close up the things first before I do anything serious. So return ret str. So now that in between we have to create the rate str stuff. And then what is a string? Str dot. You please understand one point. If this were really a part of the string class, then we would, as because on str this is working, so this str data will be available within this particular function by writing this keyword, this. But within this particular function, you cannot really have this keyword. The reason is that create initial is not a direct member of string class. Got my point? You cannot have it directly, but you have to define this. I'll explain this all very clearly, don't worry. There is a way of defining this, a very special way of defining this. I have to write this, then string, and then anything you wish it, like maybe X. For now you think that whenever, now the moment I did the error, the red jagged error down is now gone. So that means it is now sensing the create initial function. So everything that I do underneath will be for X. So this str is now X over here. That's my point. If you don't like X, just say S, fine. S over here, S. str has gone to S, fine. So very quick programming, a very quick programming will make sure that you understand that, okay, if you have got these three data pieces, you have got S has got a full data piece, that is India hash, USA hash, China hash, Pakistan, and the split character is what you get from here, and the join character is what you get from here. Basically this itself is getting passed as a parameter. Please understand, the str itself is getting passed as a parameter. So that is the first thing that this function is receiving. Please understand that create initial is passing in two parameters, right, hash and dot. But this create initial function definition, it is clear from this function definition that we are not just having these two parameters, but an extra one which is in the beginning, which says that string s, not only this, which says this string s. So this first one is nothing but the data str itself is being passed within this function call. I'll be explaining this in details. In fact, that is the explanation that I'm saving. But let me first complete this program first. So think for a moment that this str is now within S. So I know like whose create initial has to be done, and I know definitely hash and dot characters from the split and join characters, and I have to return some data which is being returned in rate str. So I have to develop this rate str, and it is being pumped within this X variable, and finally I'll be showing this. Because this Windows application, I can take the luxury of messagebox.show method to show what is within it. So that will exactly show me India.USA.China.Pakistan, right? So let me do this very simple. You have to split this S into multiple countries first, and doing this is very simple. Take a string array equals S dot, split it up, and you are splitting on what character? A split character. So it got already split into multiple characters, right? So now that what you have to do is that you have to loop through all these individual ARRs. So for that, for each string say A in ARR, that is you are getting all the country names one by one, like one after another, India, China, then all after. And what you're doing is that you are basically creating this rate str. So rate str plus equal to A is the individual country name, India, China, and I want the 0th position of the character, that is I of India, C of China, U of USA. And I also want it to be appended with the join character. So I'll write a plus symbol and I'll write a join character. But one point you must understand, that this itself is a character, A0. Like I of India is a character and join character is a character variable. So if you write these two character variables side by side, what will happen is that instead of having I dot, what will ultimately happen is that the ASCII of I will be added up to the ASCII of dot. Got the point? So this I of India, and join character, if it is dot, then ASCII of dot, the ASCII number, ASCII is a number as you know, of dot will be joined together, and that a big number will be shown to the user. In fact, I can show you up this one. If you run this right now, you'll find a big set of numbers. So what you have to do is that you have to somehow convert this to string. So for that, what else? Write dot to string. So that converts this character to string representation, and anything plus any string plus anything else will definitely upgrade it to a string like conversion, as you already know, because string plus anything, the conversation starts in string format. So now if I run it, you'll find that I, U, C and then P dot is coming, because there is a dot in the end, because after every appendation I am placing a dot in the end, like I of India, U of USA, C of China and P of Pakistan, and then a dot. But I don't want the dot to happen, so for that very simple scenario is that you have to, just before you return, just do one thing. You just do one thing like trim end for this join character. I don't want the join character to be appended in the end, so that itself returns a string type data, and that returns. So if you are not that good in programming or having doubt, just have it in this way, like ret str equal to, convert this ret str to the correct one, and then you finally return the ret str itself. Got a point? So ret str equal ret str dot trim end with the join character, then you revise the ret str with the last dot trimmed off, then you return it back. So that simply makes sure that our work is all okay. There is nothing new to code in this particular scenario, but the explanation of extension method is still left. How exactly extension method work, what is the underpinning of it, and what else we can do with the extension method, what is the beauty of extension methods. So let me now take time to explain how exactly extension methods are working. Before I start talking about extension methods, let me start talking about, let me just delete the entire stuff, no more required, general object oriented concepts. So back to square one, let us go to normal object oriented paradigm. Let me have a class person, right? Now within it, if you are having any such method that basically does something, maybe invoking something within, let us have two data pieces, ID and have another string name, and within it let us have a method whose name is, which is public, void, okay, and set input or set data, whatever you just wish it. So set data, so set data. Now I am passing in the information like integer x for ID, and sorry, ID was integer, okay, let me have it in int form, fine, and the string y. So what we do is, please understand the basic understanding. So we are going back to the very basics of object orientivity for you once. What you write is that id equals x and name equals y, right? And when you call such a function, what you write is person p equals new person, and finally you invoke its methods by typing in p dot set data. Set data, and you pass in some information. Maybe 67 is the ID, and this is somebody's name, right? Now you could also have another such object. Maybe instead of p this time it's q. Now q dot set data will be doing the same stuff, maybe for some other ID, maybe for some other ID, right? Mo, fine. So the point is how exactly stuff are working internally. So if I draw a simple notepad, so for your kind revision work you will understand this, that internally the object space, I'm drawing an object which is the person object. This is a person p object, fine, and this is the person q object. Now the internal structure of this object is to allocate enough memory space for the individual variables to accommodate. That is, there are two variables, one integer, another string. So let us think in this way, that fine, let us have this much portion allocated for integer and this much portion allocated for string. Same stuff for here also. This much portion is allocated for integer id and this much portion is allocated for the name variable, fine. Though to some extent I am simplifying stuff, but this I am doing it for the clarity of the concept. Now the point is that where exactly is set data function is then residing. If within the object space you have all the internal data IDs, I mean the data members, then the functions themselves are also data members. Then where do they really reside? Do they also reside within the object space? The answer is no, because functions themselves will never reside within the object space. They will be residing outside, because they are actually the part of the class themselves. Like set data is a part of person class. So never any function, internal function, maybe set data, get data, whatever you just want it, will never be a part of the class themselves. Rather they will be outside. They will always be outside. And where they all are the part of some bigger space, which is RAM, right? So that is the basic understanding. You already have it from your primary C++ understanding, probably if you have learned something previously. So that says that the member functions or member methods are not the part of the object space themselves, they are outside, and the internal data variable like ID, name, they are the part of the object space themselves. So now what we really need to, actually what I'm checking is that sometimes my plug got loosened and the voice was not recorded, so I'm checking that whether any deflection is occurring or not, because I don't want to fall in the same trauma. So now what really happens when you call a function set data? Got my point? What really happens when you call a function? Because within a function you see there is a mention for ID, there is a mention for name. So if within this there is a mention of ID and name, if within this we have a mention for ID and name, id is being mentioned, right? Then the name variable is also being mentioned, and definitely id and name are not locally defined, it is within these objects. So if really id and name is not within this function, then with which object this function is linked to? Got my point? Whether it is linked to this one or whether it is linked with this one. Please understand the point. Got my point? That is defined by who is calling this function. If p is calling this function, then this id and name is of this object p, right? If q is calling this particular function, then id and name will belong to this q, right? So that is what basic object oriented concepts you definitely might have already gone through, but for your sake of convenience I have repeated those stuff, thereby making the content of this video lecture a little bit more lengthier. And sorry for those who already know this, and definitely those who do not know will be thanking me. So this is p and this is q. So when this function, because function is never called alone, right? Do we call like this, like directly set data? We never call directly set data like this, because that will make no sense, because within it we are having id and name. So for whose context this function is now working? So if this function is working in the context of p, then we have somehow to let this function know that you are working with the context of p1 on behalf of p1. So either we can write p dot, or by some means we have to pass pass p itself. Got my point? Actually don't pass p1, we write p dot, but what happens internally is, even if you write p dot, p is being passed as a first parameter to this particular function, even if you want or even if you don't want. That means internally such a kind of call, internally to the framework, such a kind of call gets boiled down to set data and then p and then 67, and then 67 and John comes, right? John comes. So p information is what you receive in the very beginning of the parameter list, though it is never mentioned. And this p is this p. So how can you access this p? There is no such variable p, right? If it were really like this p, then I could have written p over here and I could have got the information. Like, okay, I'm just showing it over here itself. Then I could have used p dot id, right? P dot id. No, instead of p dot id, this special variable is named as this. You already know this. So internally what happens is that a variable with the name this is created, and even if you write this or don't write this, it assumes that if you are working on this id directly, it is invoked on this object. Got my point? So now the main statement is, you'll be shocked to hear this, the main statement is nothing is object oriented. Dot. Nothing is object oriented. I shouted loud once more. Nothing is object oriented. Thrice. What is really happening is, whenever you might think, we human beings are tempted to think that everything is happening in object oriented fashion, but actually it is not really so. Because think whether C came first or C++ came first. Definitely C came first. So though this is not the right justification of that nothing is object oriented, what is really happening is that the moment you are typing in p.setData, internally there is no such set data function is there within the memory sitting alone, right? And on it you are passing this p and passing 67, passing John, and this is happening without your notice. there is something known as V table, and system really matches the V table to see what exactly are the parameter list. So this thing, all the time this happens. We have never noted this, but when the time came up to learn extension method, this showed up explicitly. So for extension method, we are seeing this fact by our own eyes. So so already everything works like the way we have defined extension methods, right? So for extension method, this came to our notice for the first time, but it was already there, right? So, but you see, what happened really is that we defined a class which is a static class in the very beginning. Let me just tell you, because in static class all the methods are static, that is, you don't have to create an object of anything you wish and then you invoke this create initial method. Rather, you can hit this method directly. So why exactly three things over here? We all know that there can be maximum two things. One, the data type, another the variable. But here you see data type and variable are definitely there, but what the hell is this? That really showed that the real color or the internal working of how functions really work. What really this means is that I'm explicitly defining how my function will work internally. This is now S, this will be referred to as S, and this simply signifies that this str information will be passed as a first parameter, and that will be landing up into this S variable. And after that, the way we work is very simple. That is from a normal programming language concept, that we simply split up this S based on the split character and got an array of lot of countries, and for every array we extracted the first character. Now A0 will be giving the first character, and we are stringizing this one, stringize this to get the string representation of I, that is from character I we are getting the, that is from the character I we are getting the string I, right? String I of India, and then I plus join character is what is dot, and it is joining all through, and finally we trimmed off that last extra dot and returned that str back to our callee. So see that this str.createInitial is, so this createInitial is automatically being appended with this string class. So how will it understand? Because we have made use of this particular syntax. This string S, so starting any function definition with this kind of declaration, this, then the data type, and then the variable, makes sure that this function is a kind of extension method, and that also must be static, because the methods are within a static class, because such a function cannot be used in conjunction with any object instance, right? Now for those who understand the inner points, definitely because this extension method, you know that you might ask me a question, if you are good at object-oriented programming, that so if really we can extend methods of a class like that, can we really access the internal private data members within this class? Like if this really is a extended method of string class, so if Microsoft has defined any private data member of string class, maybe the character representation, how the strings will be represented, can we access them? The straightforward answer is no, definitely you cannot. This simply provides you an opportunity to use this S the way you do it from anywhere, and then return some parameter that you would like to use. So this is one of the best example of extension method that I suggested, because there are a lot of websites, maybe doing a lot of stuff, but I thought this is the best example that is suggestive, that like your project might be having several times this requirement of getting initials. Now you are not able to beg Microsoft, and even not you are able to extend string class because it is sealed already. So what you did is that you externally like it is something like this way, like fine. So something was already like this, something was already, you are not able to fuse up something, maybe this is stuff that you want to fuse up, you are not able to really get the stuff inside it, but you somehow you attach with this body. Got my point? So that now this really becomes a part of this entire story, entire class. The way other normal I mean split, join characters, other internal members are, you are able to use this in the same jargon, like object dot methodology, like you have been using str dot split, str dot something. Same way you can str dot substring, right? Like way you use str dot substring, a lot of functions, split, substring, whatever. This under the same hood, now you can write str dot make initial. You see, now moment I am writing, sorry, create initial, you see there is a symbol for this extension method. If you just little bit, if you just magnify this, you will understand that this is having this particular symbol, right? So this symbol suggests that create initial is an extension method. So now let me do one stuff. Let me see how many extension methods are already there on this string class. Press dot on it. You see where union, where zip, lot of sum, take while, to array, to dictionary, to list. Lot of extension methods have already been defined by Microsoft. You might ask me a question like, if really they have to define it as a method, if Microsoft itself has to define it as a method, why did it put it outside, right? Why did Microsoft put these methods outside? What is the need of it, right? You might ask this question. Don't this question arises in your mind? Definitely that hits your mind. If you like pick in it, you'll understand, aggregate all, any. Why these many methods? The answer will be obvious. If you see, maybe instead of string just do a double, maybe something else, maybe other than string, what is suggestive, maybe an array list, LST. Okay, array list, I have to use system recollections, array list LST. On it too you will find LST dot. You see several of the methods that was already present in string class are also present in the LST function also. I'm sorry, not all of them, but you see cast is there, some of the functions, iQueryable is there, iParallel is there, though not all. I am not getting a immediate similarity of string class with anything else. But the thing is that what Microsoft actually did, the answer to this question will be, Microsoft actually not plugged in these methods, these extension methods directly with the string class, rather something that is from which either string is deriving, or maybe from something which string is implementing. Let me give you a quick example of this one so that you can understand the point. It is quite possible to provide extension not only on a class but also on interfaces. It is not only possible for provide extensions to a class but also for an interface, because you see, if you provide extension for interface, all the class which implements that interface will automatically get that method. There is a famous interface whose name is IEnumerable, because from IEnumerable lot of classes like even array list, arrays, all are implementing enumerable interface, right? So just for the sake of simplicity, what I'm doing is that I am writing public. Now you can within the same static class you can create meaning for several extensions for several types. So this is extending string class. Let me have another one like public static. Definitely it should be static. Then okay, let it be string. Let that return string whatever. Let me have a name of it. Maybe let's say extend. Let me have this name, extend. Just the function name I am keeping as extend for the sake of simplicity. And then what I'm doing is that this. Now what I'm extending, whom I'm extending is an interface. enumerable. Then have it any name A. Then pass in two values whatever you wish, maybe x and y. X and maybe string y. Fine. As because this is promising to return a string, let us return something, say hi. Just what I did is that I provided an extension for this interface. The moment I provided an extension for this interface, the magic is now if I write array list, as because array list internally is implementing enumerable, you find lst dot, if you write ex extend, you see. So I didn't extend array list explicitly, rather I extended enumerable, but you are also able to get this extend method directly on this array list class. Not only this, if I create an array, whatever array, whichever array, maybe integer array, double array, whatever type of array, whichever type of array ARR. No, I am not creating array ARR equal new ARR because I am not worried about creating memory right now. Just I am worried about whether I am able to use that dot on that particular object or not. So ARR dot extend, see, that means arrays, array list, all other even list of, right? Let me see if I can do this. If I can do this, that means internally list generic list class also extend from that enumerable class. So maybe something s and then s dot, yes, it is available. That is in .NET. Any such collection, it extends from enumerable class, enumerable interface, I'm sorry. So that suggests that if we somehow do something in the very basic, right, very basic, like if we extend this kind of interfaces enumerable, you will get this reflected all throughout. It will broadcast itself all throughout, all classes, everything, because this you are providing implementation for this basic, you are simply extending upon. That means you are extending any class which is implementing enumerable interface. So that is basically the beauty of extension method, that is you can attach meaning to a particular class or a set of classes which is abiding by a certain interface, which is being governed by certain interface, or maybe certain abstract class. You can do whatever, like if you write in the name of some abstract class, and from that class if 10 classes are deriving, then automatically providing an implementation for this abstract class will provide this particular function to be available all throughout the 10 classes. So that is the main funda of extension methods. The first point that I defined is you want to have something in your project which you are not getting. Create method, a function that is not available. The first point, what to do? Have extension method, number one. The second point is that okay, the easiest solution is to extend or to inherit the class and do it. If you lack that opportunity because the class has already been marked as non-inheritable or sealed, non-inheritable in Visual Basic context and sealed in C# context, the same stuff. In that case, you can definitely create extension method even if the class is marked as sealed, as is the case with this string class. And third and most important thing, if you wish to have certain function available for large group of collections, as because I enumerable is a collection, array list of, in that case you can basically extend upon the basic thing, this I enumerable itself. In that case you are providing a meaning for every class that ultimately directly or indirectly implements this I enumerable class interface, I enumerable interface. Students, have you got an idea of what is an extension method? Yes. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hope to show you more of the more important concepts of this is just coming up. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.